Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other light-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
All right, it's nice to be back. The extended Christmas vacation was accidental. Even reminders to guests, went unheeded. I think like 2 weeks in a row. Like sent out some reminders about the show. Even one even said, "Oh, hey, I'm sorry about that. I need to reschedule." And they gave me the what would be convenient for them, and they still forgot for the second week in a row. So, but that's not going to happen tonight because our guest is here. And Samuel Chong is a certified court interpreter, and he helped to get Michel Desmarquet's The Thiaooba Prophecy translated into Chinese and Taiwanese, which helped to vastly expand the book's popularity. Samuel had a couple of meetings with Michel, and we'll learn about that over the next couple hours. And Samuel also has translated 334% Lies, a book on secret societies. Samuel's website is chinasona.org, and Samuel just reminded me that he will be presenting at the Journey to the Truth conference in Grafton, Illinois, on May 22nd through the 25th. So we talk about that this evening as well. Hi, Samuel. How are you doing tonight?
Good. Thank you for having me here.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. You were really busy last night, being on coast to coast, and to warm up for Nightlight. How is George doing?
Yes, George was doing great, and he jumped and asked a lot of questions, very interesting questions, and also the call-ins, the people who called in and asked excellent questions as well. So it was a very good warm-up for your show.
Okay, great. Yeah, hope Lisa's doing well too. She's a nice lady to work with, like her. Okay, so each show keeps just getting going down these different rabbit holes. Each show just becomes has its own little life, and it's just a lot of fun doing this. Okay, so let's see. There is just really so much information packed in your book. Let me start off with the Thiaooba Prophecy is pretty much a heavy-duty sci-fi religious book. Did you grow up, watching a lot of sci-fi movies, reading a lot of Isaac Asimov, Arthur C. Clarke kind of books, and being in a religious home? What was it about this book that really had such a big appeal on you?
I grew up in China before the age of 15, so we did have some sci-fi movies and stories, folklore stories in Chinese that are kind of like a fantasy stories. And I always was fascinated by information from outer space. I wanted to really obtain more knowledge from people who have more advanced civilizations than us, like people who are superior in the sense that they have more knowledge. I was hoping that we can have better teachers or guides to guide us to the right path. So I had a fascination since I was young to obtain such information from either people who have such unique experiences or directly from the ETs themselves, so that we can just uncover or unveil all the mysteries of the paranormal and to learn how to live a better life. So that's my fascination since I was young. And after I came to the U.S., in my subconscious mind, I still sought for such information and knowledge. So after searching and reading books of ET contactees, I found this book on Amazon in 2014. Yeah. So yeah. So this book really, is the book that I was looking for.
Oh, it really does span a number of genres. It really is a fascinating look at history, origin of religions, and we'll keep talking about it, but I can understand why someone would be become engrossed in this book. So, but you were really motivated after reading it to talk with Michel. So can you tell us a little bit about how you met Michel and worked with him for, knew him for a couple years?
Yeah. So just going back to the story, I was reading this book. I thought it's just another ET contactees book, just a regular book. It could be true, it could be fiction, it could be just some made-up story, which I read so many. But then when I read the chapter on who is Christ, it has a lot of information that really connects the dots of the stories in the Bible, how the ETs were involved throughout history, guiding us to the right path as recorded in the ancient scriptures in the Bible. I really didn't believe anything in the Bible before I read this book, Thiaooba Prophecy. But this book, Thiaooba Prophecy, really answered all my questions and doubts about the Bible, because I just didn't believe that anyone like the Son of God or could perform such miracles. I just didn't believe that Jesus was the Son of God. I thought God, Son, what's the connection there? Like God is supposed to be faceless, without face. It's supposed to be like a great spirit. Why would he send like a human-like son to us? Why not a daughter, which is more attractive to a lot of people? Why a son? So I thought that's just didn't make any sense to me. And also the church, a lot of the church that I went to, really said everyone has sinned, and we have to repent in order to go to heaven. That just didn't make any sense to me. It didn't make any sense to me that I had a lot of doubts and questions, and also a lot of rebellious intention, or intuitively, it just doesn't ring true to me. And so I thought that the Bible is just a fictional story or a fictional novel, because everything contained in the Bible is so leaning towards going to pray to the priest or the clergy, not to like someone who is pure and supreme. I mean, the church, the pastors and the priests, they stand in the way between us, the people, and God, the Creator. And what the heck? They killed so many people in the past in the name of God, in the name of Jesus Christ. What can they do to? I mean, what kind of things they have to teach us to go to heaven, and claiming that everyone has sinned? That just is. I will use the word insane to me to believe any of the church doctrines. So I didn't believe any of the nonsense when I was going to the church. So I mainly went to the church for the reasons of getting contacts for my business. And also for the free food that they provide every Friday evening. It's a Chinese church called the Mandarin Baptist Church of Los Angeles. And the people there were really nice, but they strongly believe everything written in the Bible. And they still don't believe anything about reincarnation. So this, reading the chapter on who is Christ, really made me believe that this is a book that really accounts for the original scriptures in the Bible. And then in the postscript of the book, it says there are more incredible things that the author Michel Desmarquet was not allowed to write in the book because we were far from understanding them. And that got me extremely curious, because it really answers all the questions about the stories in the Bible. And what's more incredible about it, I was very curious. And I thought I would be smart enough to understand everything already. And what's more incredible, that we were far from understanding them. I thought I would be the perfect person to understand that the one thing that most people wouldn't understand. So I decided to give it a try, then to track him down. And I found that he was living in Vietnam at that time, and I found a picture of him online, of his bungalow, and I printed it out and showed it to the taxi driver after I landed in the airport. And the taxi driver took me there after the second try. And since then, I had kind of a working relationship with Michel Desmarquet.
Okay. So you had two meetings with him, and you eventually spoke with him about helping to get his book to a wider audience. So, and like I said, the introduction, it was getting it printed in Chinese. we hear a lot about, censorship in today's media. How difficult was negotiating Michel's information to Chinese publishers?
It was extremely difficult because Michel Desmarquet actually received $2,000 of copyright fees from a publisher in China who said to him that he would publish the book in China. And they actually paid $2,000 to him. But then when Michel Desmarquet didn't hear anything back from them, he asked me to follow up. It turned out that they decided not to have it published because of the fear of the censorship from the Chinese government. So Michel asked me to find another publisher to have it published in a Chinese-speaking country, whether it's China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, or even Singapore. As long as it's published in Chinese, it would be okay. So I did a lot of research, and I looked up all the major publishers in China and Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Singapore. The Chinese publishers were afraid of anything relating to religion, Christianity, Jesus Christ. So that's the reason they're afraid of having it published. And the Taiwanese publishers have a different reason. The book mentioned about homosexuality being a neurosis, like should be treated. So this is a very sensitive topic in Taiwan for Taiwanese people. So some publishers rejected this book because of that sentence. They asked me to contact Michel Desmarquet to see if that sentence could be removed, and I knew what Michel would say, and I responded by saying that no, it has to be a complete version of the book without any deletion or anything like that for the Taiwanese version. Back to the Chinese version, it's a different story because Michel Desmarquet also knew about the censorship in China. He agreed that the Chinese publisher could publish it as a science fiction and also could remove certain sentences or even like an entire chapter from the book just to have the book published in mainland China. After so many contacts, I tried so many publishers, and I thought there's a very good friend of mine. Her mother used to be the editor-in-chief of a major publisher in China, but now back then she was retired. I asked her to establish a contact, and through her introduction, that book was finally published in mainland China as a science fiction with certain removals with removal of certain sentences.
Okay, so with an umbrella term like this is a science fiction book, kind of makes everything seem like it could be questioned. So that you hear things like that from censors, and we even, I better not get into the fact checkers here, but that does seem like you were running into the totalitarian state of censorship and oppression of what we would call the First Amendment.
So that's why the book had to be published as a science fiction in mainland China. And even if they try to publish as a nonfiction, there's not even a category for this kind of book, because there's no category of books for spirituality, for religion, or for UFO for that matter. So all the three areas of the book or subject matters of the book are not classified as a category in China in the nonfiction category. So it had to be published as a science fiction, and also. For that matter, it's also protection for the publisher, because if the government questions about the content of the book, they can just say, "Oh, it's a science fiction. I mean, it's a made-up story, so you don't have to worry about anything written in the book." And not so it's such like a protection for the publisher and
right.
also the editors and the publishing company. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's just an interesting background that we really haven't, maybe other than one show we did on Mu, which we'll get into at some point this evening, we really haven't covered that. And I think it's a really interesting look at how different cultures approach publishing. So, okay, let's move into looking at this autobiography. It's basically an autobiography. So we find Michel living in Australia, and he writes a note to his wife that he was knew that he was going to be leaving on a 10-day trip. And Samuel, you want to take it from there?
Yeah, that actually happened in Australia in June 1987. So he woke up in the middle of the night, and he didn't know why, but he wrote a note to his wife that he would be gone for 10 days, and there's absolutely no need to worry about him. And he walked outside of his house to his backyard, and then he was lifted up to the middle of the air, where he encountered a 9-foot-tall, beautiful, blonde E.T. Who took him to a parallel universe where he saw a lot of people wearing medieval clothes and also savages. And he was explaining that they had to stop over there just to prevent other people on Earth from seeing them. So they wanted to hide this kind of a mission of taking Michel Desmarquet to their aircraft and then spacecraft and to their planet called Thiaoouba or Thiaouba. So they started their journey stopping on another planet called Arima X3 before finally arriving on the planet Thiaoouba, which Michel calls it Golden Planet because he saw like a golden mist surrounding the planet, very beautiful colors and lights. It's like a paradise to him. And he spent there for 9 days, and he was told a lot of things about the paranormal on Earth, such as the Great Pyramid, the Bermuda Triangle, the stories in the Bible, and the human energy field, the auras, our politics, like our political system, and also our financial system, our energy source, and also information about what we need to do to improve our lives and to move to the right direction. In addition, they told Michel the purpose of life and also reincarnation. They actually showed Michel Desmarquet his past 80 lives and explained to him that life is like a wheel. What goes up has to come down. So everyone has to experience all the different kind of scenarios in life. For example, Michel Desmarquet, he was a few times a beggar, but he was also a queen ruling a very large country on a different planet. So everyone has to take different roles in different lifetimes in order to experience and to accumulate spiritual lessons.
When Michel woke up and it seemed like he knew something was going to happen. With all the people, like Michael Carter, with whom he's spoken, and all the other hosts, and listened to all the other shows. Is there something that the abductee seems to be aware of, but they don't know exactly what, but they know something is about to happen? Some kind of life-changing event. Is that pretty? Is Michel following a pattern of what other contactees or abductees experience?
Well, he didn't know what was going to happen. He just suddenly woke up. And but he knew something was wrong, something was not normal that was happening to him. So he kept thinking it must be a dream, that he was lifted up and he saw this kind of strange, misty kind of scenario when he was entering into the parallel universe. And he felt something was very strange. And then he was told a lot of the things, and even though he was told that that was not a dream, he still believed that was a dream for him, that he would wake up from the dream. And then he was told that he was going to take on this journey to visit the planet Thiaoouba, or Thiaoouba. And so I think it's only after they explained to him that he learned that he was going to take this extraordinary trip.
Okay, and in Michael Carter's discussions with us, as well as when we had Andrew Smith as a guest, when he was discussing the Flatwoods monster case, and I think we've had I think Zelia Edgar has had describes an encounter she researched where we had these huge-sized beings, and they're also dressed. We've had I think in Andrew the Flatwoods monster case, there was writing on the clothes. Is Michel's depiction or recounting of his abductor a little unusual or clothed large entities, fairly common? Have you encountered that much?
Well, I think in terms of the size of the ETs that Michel Desmarquet experienced or encountered, it's kind of like a gigantic person, 9 or 10 foot tall, really tall, like a giant. But I also know a friend of mine who encountered, or actually who met Grace, the little Grace, who are shorter than us. And so I think there are different kinds of ETs in the universe. Some are taller, some are shorter than us. And I think Michel Desmarquet was meeting with this group of very tall and beautiful blonde hermaphrodite ETs.
Okay. No, it's just some of these characteristics do pop up on discussions when we cover these ET topics, and it's just interesting to just get a variety of perspectives on the characters. I just asking for personal interest, and hopefully the listeners are having some of their questions answered by you as well. It is an interesting aspect of the phenomenon.
Yes, this group of ETs, the Thiaoubans, they're really, really beautiful and sexy. Mm-hmm. When Michel Desmarquet was meeting with them, and when he entered their spacecraft, he saw this kind of like a dozen or so of them astronauts, all female-looking. Like they all look like females or women, and all beautiful like Amazons. And he was really happy about that, because he liked to be around with women, and they're really beautiful and sexy. But then he was kind of disappointed when Tao, the main contact of his, told him that they're actually hermaphrodites, like having male and female sexual organs on the same body. So that's but they still look more feminine than masculine, and because according to this group of ETs, women look prettier than men in general. So that's why they chose that their bodies to resemble more like women's bodies than male's body, just to be more attractive. And in fact, they are more attractive than any of the other people that Michel Desmarquet encountered during his trip, because he also met other ETs, at least their corps, and also Golden Doko, the building structure on their planet. And also this group of ETs, they can live forever, so they can regenerate their body at will. They are forever young-looking, like youthful-looking, in their 30s. And they seem to be very, very happy all the time. They're compassionate and loving people. And Michel Desmarquet was really enjoyable being around with them, because he felt love from them. And he really didn't want to come back to Earth after staying there for 9 days. And he really was looking forward to being with them again before he passed away.
Okay, and as we kind of get into some of the details Michel describes to begin his, you just mentioned his 9-day stay, that there were he described a lot of colors to cut down on the bacteria. There's some of this preparations for space travel. I thought that was some pretty interesting information that he introduced as his 9-day abduction begins.
Yes. So this book is very particular and very interesting because it contains a lot of very detailed accounts of Michel Desmarquet's experiences, and so detailed that we can actually verify the facts. For example, after he entered their spacecraft, they disinfected him using yellow light and blue light, among other methods. So I did some research on the effects of yellow light and blue light. Yellow light, the color yellow, increases metabolism, the speed of blood flows in the system, in the human body. And color blue has antibacterial, antiviral effects. So it can actually inactivate viruses. The study done by Harvard Medical School proves it. They had a lot of clinical experiments showing that certain wavelengths of blue light have such effects on people and also organisms. So I think what they did was that they kind of increased the metabolism or blood flow of Michel Desmarquet by using yellow light in order for the viruses to become more activated, and then they use blue light to inactivate them, to kill them off, and just to be safe. So they also had other ways of disinfecting him, and is very detailedly described in the book. Michel Desmarquet also did astral travel, in which his astral body left his physical body while they were disinfecting his physical body. So that's a very interesting experience. I know some people say that they can have out-of-body travels or experiences. And Michel Desmarquet actually describes how that feels like. So I think it covers so many interesting topics and the paranormal activities that it's a very detailed book, a very dense book that answers all my questions and maybe all the questions of some people as well.
Well, while we are talking about Michel's use of colors with, just say the disinfectant, he also goes into detail about colors associated with auras. So, and I think maybe we can, after this little section, we can kind of get into maybe some of the segue into some of the religious themes in the book as well. But could you explain where he's going with the use of colors in auras?
Yes. For colors, he was explained that color is actually a form of vibration. So it make people think that Nikola Tesla said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of frequencies, vibrations, and energy. So color is actually a form of vibration. And the Thiaoubans, the ETs, tell Michel Desmarquet that colors have very, very interesting effects on people when used correctly. For example, there are already research studies on Earth showing that the color pink can reduce muscle strength by 30% when a person sees the color pink for about 15 minutes or so. And I looked it up, and I saw that study. They did research in the 1980s. And also a football coach in the University of Iowa knew the effects of pink color, and he utilized it to his advantage by painting the walls of the locker rooms of his visiting opponents, like the team of opponents so that they would stay in the pink locker room for as long as 15 minutes or whatever length at the time. And then it turned out that he never lost a home game. So if visitors come to his university to play the game, and they stay in the pink locker room to change clothes, and they would lose the games because they wouldn't have the muscle strength as strong as what they would have if they didn't see the pink color. So this is a very interesting anecdotal story. Anecdotal story. So I think the effects of colors should be studied more and more and should be emphasized. It's just that if we really incorporate colors in our life, I think we are going to benefit. But on the other hand, we have to balance the interests of the major pharmaceutical companies, because if, for example, if the color green is shown to be able to heal and treat people with migraines or headaches, then if everyone uses the color green to treat themselves, then the pharmaceutical companies wouldn't be able to make money anymore from the drugs or over-the-counter drugs or prescription drugs. So this is have to be balanced. The interests have to be balanced. So I think the public, the people, need to make a decision whether to think about or consider the interests of the pharmaceutical companies, so that the employees would be continue to work for the companies, and the companies wouldn't go bankrupt, or to use a cheap and alternative way to heal themselves using colors. And actually, the color therapy or chromotherapy was extremely popular in the 1920s in the U.S., and they could treat all kinds of diseases. But then the big pharmaceutical companies discovered antibiotics. So they forced the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, to suppress the use of colors to treat different diseases. So this goes back to the special interest groups. So people have to balance the interests between the big pharma and also the mass, the people. So that's the effects of color on health. And Michel Desmarquet was also told about that we all have human energy fields or auras. I actually know for a fact that certain people can see the colors of auras. For example, Barbara Brennan, former NASA scientist, she can see the colors of auras, and also she can see what's going on with a person, like a person's personality or intentions, or if the person will have physical illness, because physical symptoms of different illnesses show up after the colors change in a person's human energy field. So in a sense, the human energy field is kind of like a prediction indicator for a person's health conditions. And Michel Desmarquet was told that if a person can incorporate the colors of their environment with the colors of their auras, then it's going to have amazing effects, beneficial effects to that person. So I think that's something that we can all explore further.
Well, I've read a little bit too about trauma. Some people can pick up the aura around traumatized people. So I've encountered that in something similar in a different context. I think it's there. I think some people spot it easier than others.
Yeah, that's true. like some people, when they see, like the people who can see the colors of auras, when they see a person in front of them, they can tell if the person uses drugs, hallucinogenic drugs, or if the person is drunk, or if the person has evil intentions, or if a person is spiritual. In fact, there's a lady called Rosalind Brewery, who did studies with a professor at UCLA on the effects of colors, auras, and she tells me that she can normally tell which football team is going to win the game by just looking at the colors of their auras. Like the winning team, always has like a stronger, more harmonious colors among their team members. So she would be able to predict which team would win the game. It also applies to horse racing. So she can actually tell which horse is going to win the race. So that's very interesting.
Okay, well, if you want to win the Super Bowl, have all just don't dress in the pink locker room.
Right, that's for sure. That's a precaution to all your listeners.
Okay, so we also are there's several instances where it seems almost like Star Trek, where they're in these like little spheres, and like they're like zooming in, and on a screen, the camera shows different aspects of humanity on some of the planets as they are making their way to Thiaooba. Just talk about one of the samples and see how some of them almost seem like they are foreshadowing some biblical stories. Is there one you want to talk about? I thought the one with the like ants and the radiation poisoning was pretty interesting.
Yeah, so what happened was that they were going to Thiaooba, but they stopped on another planet before their arrival. The name of the planet is called Arimo X3. So they saw like very kind of desolate scenes over there. And it turned out that they had a nuclear war about 150 years ago, where everything was destroyed. So because of the radiation of the nuclear bomb, people were deformed. They had a lot of effects after the radiation, like they seem to have a lot of issues with their skin and also their facial structure because of the radiation effect. And also because of the radiation, a lot of the insects were mutated, and they grew very large. So they were like cockroaches and also ants that grew so large that they posed a danger to the survivors on that planet. So the Thiaoobans, this group of ETs, have to kill them off in order to help the people on that planet to continue to survive. And so the Thiaoobans were actually collecting the soil samples and water samples from rivers, and just to see the leftover radiation levels on their planet. And they also told Michel Desmarquet that on that planet, it actually existed a very successful or kind of highly advanced civilization, very similar to what we are today. Like technologically wise, they were kind of advanced, and but because of the fact that they only focus on material wealth, not spiritual growth, they turned jealousy into hatred, and hatred into wars. So they fought against each other, and the war escalated, and they used nuclear bombs, and everyone was destroyed, and there were only like a few survivors left. And the men have to, and a lot of people didn't have the ability to progenerate or to have babies anymore, including the women and the men. The men, they don't have erections anymore, and only like one or two still had the ability to progenerate or to procreate. So those men who could procreate became like the ones who like kind of make everyone else pregnant, every other woman like pregnant. So it turned out that it's a very, very disheartening society, and as a result of the nuclear war, kind of warning us, if we don't focus, if we only focus on technology and not spirituality, then we would be heading the same thing. So this is actually a book of warning to us, not a book of prophecy, because it doesn't really prophesize anything. It gives us a lot of warnings. And also it says that our future depends on our actions. So through this book, they're hoping that we can wake up, we can mend our ways, and to be on the right path.
Okay, and we can also look at Michel's recounting of what he was told about Mars was an advanced culture, but they had some limited resources. So some of the information that we're getting early on in Michel's travel seems to foreshadow that people from outer space would be colonizing Earth. So and they're bringing their lessons with them.
Well, what happened was that, on the planet Arimo X3 that they just visited, like about 300,000 years ago, they had an issue with overpopulation, and they were trying to migrate to another planet of the same category, like a Category 1 planet, which is like Earth, where we live now. That's the lowest category, and there are a total of 9 categories. So they were trying to move their people, and at that time there were the continents of Lemuria and Atlantis. So they first landed. Actually, they first explored the planets in our solar system. They saw Mars. They visited Mars and saw that they had people there. The people were highly spiritual, the people on Mars, but they didn't have a lot of technology. And because of it, their natural resources were scarce. So the planet Mars wasn't able to sustain so many people being migrated from that planet Arima X3. So they thought Mars was not the ideal planet, and also Mars was also a dying planet too, because the core was cooling down. When the core of a planet is cooling down, that means it will probably no longer have the electromagnetic force to capture the atmosphere anymore in the future. So without the atmosphere, then plants and life forms would die out, and the planet would become like a desert. So which is like Mars now. So if some people want to really move us to a desert planet like Mars, I think they should probably seriously reconsider. So they gave up on Mars and they discovered Earth. So they landed on at the northwestern corner of the continent of Lemuria, where they saw some Chinese people. And the Chinese people, I know Chinese people, I am Chinese person from China, and Chinese people are always very suspicious. It's just their nature. So they had a war with the Chinese people there. And being like more spiritual, they didn't really want to have the war, so they retreated back to the moon, and they established like an alien base, an ET base, on the far side or the back side of the moon, and that they used as a transfer station to transfer their people and materials gradually, step by step, phase by phase, onto the continent of Lemuria. So that's the story, and there they built a very, very successful and civilization, and they built a great pyramid, and they colonized the people on Atlantis, and also like people helped the people of Atlantis to colonize, or the Mayas to colonize people in India. So a lot of stories like that, until one day, about 14,500 years ago, the entire continent of Lemuria sunk into the ocean.
And there seems to be some hints of these lost continents referenced in the Bible. Next rant you go on, I have to look for Gary Wayne's book. But I know he's spoken about. There are indications that Lemuria and Atlantis were referenced in the Bible. There are some other traits, like the building of the pyramids that started on these what would become lost continents, technology that survived. So did during Michel's learning of Earth's prehistory on the spaceship, were the depictions of these lost continents seem like they're pretty accurate with a lot of the ancient folklore and ancient sacred texts?
Yeah. So Michel Desmarquet actually visited in his astral body what it was like living on the continent of Lemuria about 14,500 years ago. He actually, with the guides, with the guidance from the people on Thiaoouba, they actually took him inside of the Akashic record. which according to him records everything that happens on a planet by rotating like at the speed 7 times the speed of light. So, and he was told that people with practice, certain psychic or spiritual practice, they can actually do the same thing by accessing the Akashic record and to learn about what really happened in the past in a holographic form. So he actually experienced everything, and he saw and he heard and he actually felt what it was like when the continent of Lemuria sunk into the ocean, and also before it sank into the ocean, how people were living on the continent. And he saw that people were really, really using highly advanced technologies such as anti-gravitational technologies to build the Great Pyramid, to build a pyramid, and also the statues on Easter Island, the Moas, yes. And he actually saw that they used a lot of form of psychic practice like meditation to communicate with people on other planets by sitting inside was similar to the king's chamber in the Great Pyramid of Egypt. And then he had a very vivid description, a very detailed description on how they did it, and also what people did in the supermarkets, where people just grabbed whatever they needed without taking advantage of the system. They didn't use any money at all. So on the continent of Lemuria, there was no money. It's like a communal system or communal society. And a lot of very interesting descriptions, such as animals and that he never saw before, and things like that, and also music, instruments.
Okay, so you were just talking about Easter Island, and one of Michel's guides, Tao, says that she was a model for one of the Moai. So so there's your ET ancient structure connection. What was Michel's? He wrote a good bit about Easter Island. What was his interest in describing Easter Island, as well as the pyramids? Our listeners really enjoy those topics, and they do come up pretty frequently in these discussions with alien engineering. I don't know if there's a question in there, but it's a fascinating topic to make the connection between ETs and these megalithic structures.
Well, the megalithic structures, such as the Moas, statues on Easter Island, were actually built by the people on the continent of Lemuria with the technology of using anti-gravitational force, like technology to lift the stones up, and also using supersonic vibrational systems to cut the stones in a very precise manner. But because they kept the technologies a secret, they didn't pass it on to other people in the world, such as the people in China or Africa or Australia. So others didn't have this technology. So when the continent sunk into the ocean because of earthquake, such technologies were lost, and some technologies were on the continent of Atlantis because they were colonized by the people from Lemuria. So that's why the Great Pyramid of Egypt was actually built by a very wise and learned person called Thoth from Atlantis about 17,000 years ago. So Thoth actually built the Great Pyramid of Egypt using 9 years, using the same technology that the Lemurians built the Moa statues and also the Great Pyramid on the continent of Lemuria as well. He didn't use any slaves or any laborers, and it only took him about 9 years to do it. So the Great Pyramid of Egypt was actually a tool to capture cosmic energy and terrestrial energies in order to concentrate the energies in a form so that it can use it to communicate with people on other planets and also to explore parallel universe. They also used the Great Pyramid of Egypt to make rain and to really moderate weather. And it's actually proven by modern science and modern research. University of Reading from the United Kingdom, the UK, they did research on making rain, like by ionizing the clouds. So by doing so, the rain would be formed. And so this is the same thing that they did using the Great Pyramid, because they can project the energy into the sky, into the clouds, and to make rain. And this is actually, some people call it using orgone energy. It's just different names. They're actually the same thing.
Okay. We're just talking about controlling the weather, making it rain. There's seems like there are a lot of descriptions of what people are doing during these conferences with Michel, as they're on the spaceship or in one of the meeting rooms, and there's one where they get into a discussion about levitating, and there's where I just saw it in my notes, and now I can't find it. Someone's sitting in a lotus position. So some of it's on page 74. There's obviously, like being in Australia, there would be some Eastern influence that there on Michel, but with these descriptions of people sitting in the lotus position, is there was Michel getting into some of these Eastern spiritual concepts that the West has forgotten about, or they definitely don't acknowledge them today? But is there something in the Asian countries that insights into better living than some of these Western concepts that we're dealing with now?
I mean, Michel Desmarquet, he says that he didn't believe any of the Catholic Church doctrines. He thought that those are just nonsense, and he was more inclined to believe in some of the Eastern philosophies, such as Buddhism, and he has affinity to more like Eastern beliefs, specifically regarding reincarnation. So, of course, I think he would have certain knowledge before he went on this trip to Thiaoouba. And the 2 times that I visited him, I saw that he had certain books on his bookshelf. I don't know whether those books were his interest after he had the trip or before he just had those kind of interests. But the books were actually on like reincarnation, like Life After Life by Dr. Raymond Moody, and also so things like that. I don't know whether he read a book before he went on the trip or after. Probably after. I don't know, but he certainly has had certain knowledge about it, the Eastern philosophies and concepts.
Yeah, it's very interesting the way that a lot of these ideas were worked into the story. It shows that there is such a strong link between science fiction stories and spirituality, and both in both topics, and it really seemed to look at how we can improve things. There's a lot of like optimistic views of the future. Sometimes you get, like Jurassic Park might not be a really good example of that, but there are 2001 has an optimistic ending, but you do find examples where there are those topics intertwined that really do leave a powerful message. And there's the at the towards the end of the book, there's the chapter on who was Christ.
Yeah. Well, a lot of science fiction movies have good endings, and that's really good. But this book emphasizes that the future depends on our actions, our collective efforts, because we determine our future. The future is not fixed; it's not set. So we have to really act in order to make our world a better world in the future. So they actually said this by saying that even the Thiaoubans coming from a Category 9 planet, the highest level in the universe, they still cannot predict what's going to happen 100 years ahead of us. So they can only see the probabilities of what's going to happen in the future within 100 years. So in a sense, I think while the past is fixed, the future really depends on how we respond to certain situations that we all face now. So I think it's good to have good endings for sci-fi films, and I really love the endings such as the Avatar, and especially the first one, and I love it, especially environmental aspect, environmental thing of that movie. I especially enjoy. But I really think that this book is aimed at waking people up on a more spiritual level, so that we can really be mindful about what's happening around us. Like everything that happened in the past a few years or a few decades, like are the mainstream media really the one that we should just blindly follow? The book really wants us to really look at everything behind the scenes, look at what's happening really, like are the politicians really the ones making the decisions, or other special interest groups pulling the strings, making the politicians like puppets on a show? Because the politicians, like in the U.S., come and go every 4 years or 8 years, but there are certain groups of people that remain there no matter whether the Republicans are in power or the Democrats are in power. It really doesn't matter who is in power, as long as they can pull the strings and determine the media and influence people's mind. Personal experience, personal story. I live in Los Angeles, and there was a mass shooting in a dance studio about 3 days ago in Monterey Park, like an Asian community. Yeah. And there was a mainstream media outlet. I won't name it because I worked for them as a Chinese translator, interpreter. So when they want to report certain things, they already knew what they were going to report. They were going to report on people's reactions, how they felt scared about this whole incident, feeling that it might be a hate crime or something like that. So they already determined what they're going to write about, and then they look for people who are in line with their story, their narrative, and then they report on those people. In fact, when most people say they didn't feel scared and they knew that it was not a hate crime, those people are ignored. So they only choose the ones that will be on camera in line with their narrative and to be interviewed. So they only look for those people. So this shows you how the media works. I mean, they don't necessarily report the truth. They only report their narrative, like trying to find proof among the millions of people. So this is my personal first-hand experience working for journalists and reporters of a mainstream media outlet. I want people to know this.
Yeah, well, it's just what you were just saying about the the media already is looking at who is what aspects of the story that they want to print. It's it's kind of like all of a sudden, out of the 250 years of the United States, it's like all within like the same couple weeks, all these presidents and former presidents are having all these classified documents. All of a sudden, they show up at their homes. That doesn't seem a little fishy, and it's not. And that's not falling into a narrative that the media wants you to believe, except for what Nightlight does.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly.
But it just seems like some things are staged, or only wanting that one point of view.
Exactly, for sure.
And it's just a shame that people were hurt and killed in the shooting that you're talking about, but it's the manufactured responses seem not to be genuine. So, but and the second, the subtitle that's being used in the reprint is the ninth planet, and you also talk about how the number 9 is significant in Chinese culture. What is that about?
Right. In Taoism, it says 9 times 9 goes to 1. So 9 goes to 1. And it seems that in Taoism, the number 9 symbolizes perfection and also the ultimate goal of a person's life journey. So I find it very similar to what the Thiaooba Prophecy talks about, that category 9 is the highest level of category in the universe of a planet. And we are on category 1 planet and they're on category 9 planet. We have different roles. We are just like elementary school students. Nothing to be ashamed, nothing to be embarrassed. We are just learning the basics. And there are like university professors trying to guide us and to teach us the basic principles so that we can go on the right direction. And after level 9, that will be the source, the creator of the universe. And in Chinese Taoism, it also says that if one is to reach total enlightenment, one has to go through 9 times 9 life journeys, like 81 life journeys, responding to the challenges in life. Exactly like what this book said, that because Michel Desmarquet already had 80 past lives, and this is his 81st lifetime, so he's about to complete a major cycle in his life journey. So that's why he was chosen, because he was able to remain and stay on their planet for 9 days. Otherwise, people with lesser number of past lives wouldn't be able to survive for 9 days on their planet. So I find that similarity and collaboration very interesting between Chinese Taoism and this book, Thiaooba Prophecy.
Okay. Well, I just thought of something. It's talking about this numerology leading to perfection. You get that in Dante's Divine Comedy, and you have 33 cantos in the 3 books. That's a religious work too. It's building up to like 100 is like a perfect number, and all the nines involved. Getting close to 100, but you have like 99 cantos throughout the 3 books, and all these just different levels of hell and paradise, and Beatrice as Dante's guide through these different symbolic levels of celestial places. There really does seem to be a really takes a really deep look at a lot of these religious archetypes that show how similar many religions are.
Well, he really had a strong opinion on religions. According to this book, Thiaooba Prophecy, religion is a curse on earth. So it's the spirituality that's important. Spiritual development. Okay. So religions, I mean, he says he is very cynical about the Catholic Church, saying that they killed so many people in the name of God, and they kind of did so many terrible things in the Spanish Inquisition, and they kind of removed certain things and intentionally distorted the meanings from the ancient scriptures of the Bible, and the pastors, the priests, the Catholic priests, they claim that they're representative of God. And I mean, Michel Desmarquet, he was really not satisfied at what the churches or the religions are doing on earth. The Thiaoubans also say that the Catholic Church, being the wealthiest religious organization on earth, they kind of spent millions, a lot of money on their expenses on the Pope and also other things, and in the name of God, and claiming that they still need a lot of money, and poor people, especially poor people, donate a lot of money to them, and they squander away just on their expenses without really doing anything for the needy or anything specific for the needy. So they're hypocrites, and they are really the not the good guys on earth. You know, when I read that, I was very dubious about this claim. I thought, the Catholic Church people, I go to a Protestant, like a Baptist church. So I didn't know anything about the Catholic Church. So I thought the Catholic Church, they're kind of good people. Occasionally there will be some kind of molestation of boys or underage boys claims, but those are just the few that are just needed to release their emotional needs or something like that. I thought that they were doing okay, except for this kind of claims. What I didn't know was that the Catholic Church was actually the wealthiest religious organization on earth. I didn't know about that until one day I asked my pastor, like the pastor at the church that I go to, saying that, Thiaooba Prophecy says the Catholic Church is really wealthy. Is that the case? I was told that the Catholic Church is more than 10 times wealthier than all the Protestant church combined, or something like that. It's really something that shocked me. I didn't know about it, so it's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and let's see with your secret book on the secrets, the translated book you did on the secret societies. What would the readers get from that one, since you are segued into what some of these groups do behind the scenes?
Yeah. So how I found this book, 334,000th life, not percent, but thousandth life.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard to pronounce that word, but it's a symbol of 1/1,000. So what happened was that I was looking for ways to see auras, because I know being able to see auras would be a very important skill to improve a person's spirituality. And I did a lot of research on the internet. One day I found this forum in English that mentioned about the book in German, with a passage about how the author of that book was able to gain the ability to see auras through certain practices. And it was a very detailed description, so I wanted to read the entire book to gain more knowledge and to find out the source of the information. So I at that time, it was about 2 years ago, the book was only written in German. And I thought, I need to read that. Why don't I just have it translated into English? So I did. And after translation, I read it, and I was shocked at the content, because it reveals everything about the rituals, and also how a regular German boy, teenager or college student was able to move up to a higher degree within that secret society until he became the chair, the 41st degree chair of that organization, the Illuminati. I didn't believe in anything related to Illuminati before. I thought that was just a conspiracy theory. As you can probably tell, it's pretty hard to convince Samuel, like myself. I didn't believe none of those. But after I read this, there are so many facts that corroborates with what's being said in the book, Thiaooba Prophecy. It reveals how they were able to perform supernatural abilities or miracles, such as levitate and mind control, predicting certain events using a special form of astrology, and also the meanings of numbers, which is a form of numerology. They also state some certain facts related to their organization, like the European branch being headquartered in Germany, and the North American branch headquartered in New York City, and how there were internal struggles between the two sections of the secret society. And so I was going to find out more about the author, but I was kind of a little afraid, because he was able to basically do a lot of things to certain people, and I have no idea what kind of person he is. But I contacted the publisher, a German company, and sought for permission to have it published on Amazon. And he thought it was a very good idea, and he gave me the permission. And I actually didn't do it, and they did it, but naming me as a translator. And I think there are people who try to join secret societies such as the Freemasons and the Illuminati, just to find out how to have supernatural powers, or to learn the secrets of life. And I tell them, and I tell your listeners, if you know people like those, just tell them to read the 2 books, and that will be sufficient. Thiaooba Prophecy and this book, 334,000th Life, because these two books unveil all the secrets that the secret societies teach you. And actually, these two books give you more inside information and more concise and more useful information on how to gain such abilities and also the secret knowledge, because you wouldn't have to perform all the rituals. The rituals they perform are really scary, only for adults who have a heart that can sustain such, can take such information. They kill people just to get the person's energy, so they can grow stronger energy-wise on their own. They do a lot of terrible things, and once you get in, it's really hard to get out. Either you die or you don't name anyone when you release certain information. So it's really scary organization. I would tell people not to be involved. If you want to gain the knowledge, just read the two books. That will be sufficient.
Okay, we have guests to cover both sides. I'm not a member of, I'm just a member of Nightlight. That's about the only group that would accept me. But we hear stories from both sides of the secret society. They're popular shows. It's interesting. I'm not a member. I just listen to what people have to say about them. But you also studied in Spain, so are you fluent in Spanish as well?
I am fluent in Spanish. I can get by with a lot of things, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds like you have a fascinating career in working with full languages.
Yes. And in addition to that, I always want to learn from the best. For example, if I really want to learn how to invest in the financial markets, I would learn from Warren Buffett, known to be the best investor, the most famous one at least, and also Jim Rogers, who Warren Buffett says is the best financial instructor he ever seen. Jim Rogers, if you know him, he's a co-founder of Quantum Fund with George Soros that made a very big killing in the financial markets when the British pound depreciated against all major currencies. And also like that. And also I want to say to people in the ufology field, if they want to learn about ETs and their advice and suggestions to us, and their technologies for that matter, read the book Thiaooba Prophecy, because it talks about the people from the ETs from Category 9 planet, not a Category 1. The Greys that the U.S. government has been collaborating with to get their technologies from, they're from Category 1 planet. If you're learning from the Greys, you're learning from your peers. You're not learning from the masters. If you really want to learn from the masters, learn from the Thiaoubans, the Jehovah's, as was being quoted in the Bible. And also to the people who really are interested in the secret societies. I know there are some other authors, writers who write about their experiences in secret societies, and those are like lesser degree members that they interact with. But the book 334,000 Life was written by the highest degree of the chair of the Illuminati. For the Illuminati, there were only like 39 degrees in the past, and because of what the author did, he became the 41st degree in that organization. So if you really want to learn everything or inside out or maybe everything about the Illuminati, you definitely should look into this book because it's from the chair.
And Samuel, you just mentioned, learning from the Thiaoubans. There is, a passage in there about they are guardian angels. They do appear in the Bible just under other names. I think there's so I think my friend the Red Dragon Rider had a post the other day about guardian angels being mentioned in the book of Exodus. These ETs are ones that there are ETs here to help us.
Yes, throughout history. For example, they were trying to help us to get on the right path of spirituality by destructing the two cities, Sodom and Gomorrah. They were trying to help us by having Moses to lead the Hebrews out of Egypt. They helped Moses by going to Mount Sinai, by parting the Sea of Reeds. And they also helped us by sending Jesus to us. Actually, two Jesus, one Jesus, one Christ, one who could not perform miracles, and the one who could perform miracles. And they also intervened in recent times, as recently as World War II, preventing Germany from being the first country to develop these atomic bomb. So they have been helping us.
Okay, and you also make note of the way Thiaouban is pronounced is kind of similar to a corruption of the word Jehovah or Jovan. I'm sorry. Can you explain that?
Yeah, like if you really like the book Thiaooba Prophecy was originally written in French, and in French, Thiaouban is actually pronounced as Thiaouban, Jehovah. Like the planet Thiaouba is pronounced as Thiaouba, which is very similar to Jehovah. And indeed, this book says whenever you see in the original Bible, it says the Jehovah says something, it should be the Jehovans or Jehovah who said this and that. So the Bible is actually an ancient scripture that documented the interactions between the Jehovah's and us. And it's actually a very interesting story how the ancient scriptures of the Bible were later distorted.
Okay. When you do your conference in May, will you be covering topics like this?
Yes, and I'll be covering topics not only related to this, but also additional information that I discovered, and also information that I have access to from whistleblowers from China. as a Chinese translator, I am privy to certain information that may not be accessible to the American general public.
Okay, and you have, or you'll be appearing with Brad Olson there. He's been a regular on Nightlight. He and Barbara have a great time talking. He's always fascinating with his recent lectures on his trip to Antarctica and all that he saw there and his around the world travels. He's really a leading guest on, making the rounds to all the podcasts.
Yes, I know. Sometimes I may be able to help him to get his books published in China.
Okay, well, he's excellent, a publisher in his own right. He's been all around the world. He has a terrific group of authors that he represents as well. Very, very talented person, as well as being on like Scott Walters' show and other History Channel shows.
Yeah, I'm actually in touch with him already.
Yeah, top quality guy. I see. Is there? We're talking about the subtitle of the Thiaooba Prophecy is the ninth planet. Is there any similarity to Sitchin's the 12th planet? Or is it just happens to be just another number?
What this book says is category levels. There are a total of 9 different category levels of planets in the universe. It doesn't really say like the dimension or the actual number of planets. So, and I find this book to be a little bit different from the others because it has information that's so specific that we can verify.
Mm-hmm.
In our real life, we can visit Shingo Village, Japan, to visit the tomb of Jesus Christ, and we can actually verify the effects of blue light on bacteria and viruses. We can actually do research on why Germany, who was actually far more ahead than the U.S. in developing the atomic bomb, why Hitler gave up the plan. That's actually due to Heisenberg, who made a stupid mistake when he was calculating the amount of uranium needed in making the atomic bomb. A very stupid mistake, and I think that's probably how the ETs intervened. And we can also find a lot of other clues in this book regarding the U.S. military sending millions of needles into space. That's actually been recorded in I think people can look it up on scientific journals and see what happened. Remember, the book was written in 1989 when there was no internet in Australia. And Michel Desmarquet was a farmer, a landscaper, who, until his death, didn't know how to use a computer, didn't know how to type, and not to say how to surf the internet. I mean, he didn't know how to handle the technology of the modern days. But yet he wrote about everything, and he never visited Japan in his entire life. how did he get the information that we can verify? I think if he writes so many facts that we can verify, then the other facts contained in the book that we have yet been able to verify should be paid attention more seriously, because they might be true. It's very likely that they're going to be true, even though we are not able to verify them yet.
So, and you are hoping to go to the Shingo village to see where Jesus was buried. Well, we have had guests talk a little bit about, during the Jesus's lost years, he did a lot of traveling. So there is a legend that Jesus traveled to Japan.
Yes. So what happened was that in order to meet people's expectations that someone extraordinary was going to be born from a virgin woman, the Thiaoubans implanted the embryo into the uterus of Virgin Mary, and that Jesus was born, and he was highly intelligent and spiritual, and he went to India and died in Japan. So there's a tomb of Jesus Christ in Japan, in Shingo village, Japan. But because a person is born from an embryo, then he would have to pass what they call the river of oblivion, forgetting everything he experienced in his past lives, and also forgetting all the knowledge that he accumulated to perform miracles. So that Jesus actually couldn't perform any miracles. That's why there's no record in the Bible stating that Jesus performed any miracles before the age of 30. Christ, on the other hand, the one who preached spirituality and love in the Bible, in the New Testament, is actually an ET from Thiaoouba, who went into the body of Jesus made by the Thiaoubans that resemble like the looks of Jesus at that time. And they did this just to be able to remember, for the Christ to remember all the abilities to perform miracles, because they knew that the people at that time were really not going to take the words of a regular person seriously. Someone like Christ would have to perform miracles in order for the people at the time to believe his preachings, his teachings. So that's why he performed all the miracles and preached spirituality and love. And he died on the cross and resurrected 3 days after, just to show people that there's life after death and there's reincarnation. And the 3-day period of time is very interesting because in Tibetan culture, it is forbidden to touch the corpse of a person for 3 days, because they knew that that would disturb the recent dead. And there's a more scientific explanation, is that when a person dies, the astral body leaves the physical body, and 81% of the electrons that make up the astral body remain in nature for 3 days before they go back to the higher self of a person. And the other 19% remain in nature until they're either recycled by nature or when a person reincarnates. And some people say that they can see ghosts, and what they see is actually the 19% of electrons of the astral body of the dead person. Because of static forces, the 19% electrons resemble the shape of the person when he or she was alive. And because electrons also contain memory, so that's why ghosts frequently haunt the places that they loved or hated.
Okay, that makes sense. And that's a nice lead into some other shows I'm working on to develop, to bring to our listeners. Keep that in mind as well. And Samuel, we're down to about the last 3 minutes or so. Okay, you had your conference in Illinois, May 22nd and through the 25th. Where can people find your book and anything else you want to publicize?
Yeah, people can find information about me by searching on Google my name, Samuel Chong, C-H-O-N-G, and also the name Thiaoouba, Thiaouba. In the conference in May, I'm going to reveal a lot of interesting information that's going to benefit many of the audience. Their health, their family, their relationship, their financials, because I have a financial background as well, and also how to respond to challenges in life. In addition to the messages from the ETs, the friendly ETs, and I think it's going to be really rewarding for the people who attend.
Okay, and you can find the books on Amazon as well.
Yes, Amazon. Yes.
Okay. Well, we're only down to like 90 seconds left. So, Samuel, I just wanted to thank you for so many insights to other cultures that you brought to tonight's show, as well as how multifaceted Michel Desmarquet's book is, and thank you for passing, for Michel passing the torch on to you to keep discussing this fascinating book. And thank you again. And I want to thank all the listeners for tuning in. And we have some other great shows coming up. I think Barbara's going to be on a show on Tim Walter's show on Friday, and working on some good stuff for February and March as well. So keep checking the website, and we will see everyone next week. Thank you again, Samuel. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye, everyone.